So that's a pretty big ballpark. But
Yeah.
anyone who doesn't have the experience walking into even a $2 million home, not
Yeah.
understanding what type of service is being offered, because luxury isn't the price point, it's really the service, right? And that's where
Totally.
it goes back to your team, the values, what you guys stand for. And there's also major brand recognition, as we spoke about the agency, the name, but the Meyer Lucas brand, the lemons, that holds great value for clients when they
It's
see you
priceless.
walk. Exactly, right? All right, guys, I am very excited with our new guest today on The Art of Greatness. I met this person on Clubhouse a couple years ago, and it's been a while since we've actually last spoke. She is the founder of the Meyer Lucas team. She's the principal of the sports and entertainment division at Compass. She is a public speaker. She's a trainer. She's a badass woman with one of the top teams in all of South Florida. And she's coined realtor to the sports celebrities in all of South Florida. So if you are anyone in South Florida looking for one of the best teams to support you, help you, this is the person that you want. Without further ado, allow me to introduce my next guest, Holly Meyer Lucas. Welcome.
What's up? What an
What?
intro. How do I follow that? My God.
You
Gotta
just be
tone that
you.
down a little bit.
You just have to be
Love it.
you. So I love
Dang
it.
it.
I know it's been what, 2 years, right? Since we last spoke. And we met
Yeah,
on
it's
Clubhouse
been
a
a
couple
minute.
times.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's so crazy how Clubhouse it just created so many incredible, like lifelong colleague type relationships. Like there's so many people that you and I both mutually are like close with now that came out of this Clubhouse app. Like how crazy is that? Every time I think about it, it's like it just blows my mind that like that very brief period of time. Or do you go on that app ever anymore?
Rarely, very, very rare at this point. How about yourself?
Yeah, same. I bounce in and out occasionally when like when I need a break from my normal, podcast or whatever, but it's like there was just that like it was like almost like a 6-month window, right? Where like the content was fire. I think what killed Clubhouse, I'm curious about your opinion about this. Not to jump into a random topic, but I think what club killed Clubhouse is the self-promotion-y stuff. Like once people figured out that you could start really selling coaching programs and mentorship programs and things like that, it kind of like just kind of fell by the wayside, I think.
I enjoyed that free information aspect of it, and we
Yeah.
were hosting rooms twice a week, and I was hosting personally, and that's how I met a lot of these people. You mentioned Glenda Baker, Andy C, Jazz Hacker was on my podcast just a couple of weeks ago, and then you just
Mm.
get to build these immense relationships with these people. Now we have all these mutual friends that we know from across the US, across Canada, and I find it super exciting to be able to build those relationships and then utilize them through time. And there's so much learning that actually happened. I was happy to be able to give back to the community as much as I could and then learn so
Yeah.
much from some of the top people across North America and the world, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I feel like I leveled up, like without a shadow of a doubt. I leveled up because of Clubhouse and because of what I learned on Clubhouse. One of the biggest things that I took away from the Clubhouse rooms that we had and just the sharing was how you can share freely and not feel like you're giving away the house, like you're not giving away all your secrets and whatever. Like I think one of the things that makes me a good leader is I naturally just share things to begin with. Like I could give you my entire listing presentation, like start to finish, like I wouldn't even think twice about it, sharing that because you're not going to deliver it the same way I am. And like I've always been very open with helping people. And Clubhouse, I think the community that we curated, because I think there were probably like what would you say, like 50 to 100 like active real estate agents with like a core group being like around like 20 to 30 of us. Is
Yeah. And I'd
that
even say
fair?
more than that at times.
But I
At
mean,
the
like ones
peak.
that were like actively, yeah, like
Yes.
actively participating. Like there were probably, I mean, hundreds that
Y-
listened,
Yeah.
but I mean the ones that were like collaborating,
I'd
right?
say 50 to
Um,
100, you're probably right. Especially the
yeah,
people that
around
were
that.
really giving out the knowledge, the information, and trying to help each other.
Yeah, totally. It was so refreshing. It was the first time in my entire life where I was in like a curated environment where everyone was sharing like this abundant mindset that we all have. And I think that's why all of us are still so close, right? Like all of us are cut from the same cloth of just like what do you need? My whatever, like, here it is. I'll email it to you right now. Like, it was like such an interesting, cool community.
No, it's amazing. I kind of miss it, but I kind of don't because it gives us
Yeah, it
back
was
a
a
little
time
bit of
suck.
time.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was sometimes you were on
yeah,
Clubhouse for 4 hours. My wife was like, "Can you get off Clubhouse, please?
yeah.
Like,
Same,
can we just have a
same. I
chat?"
needed it though. Like, I was really in a place in my business. Like, I mean, I really, really needed that. Some of the tidbits that I gained from man, I learned so much from Clubhouse for real, like for real.
Yeah, yeah, actively listening. Sometimes just sitting at the bottom of rooms, being like, "Okay, what does
Yeah,
this person have to say?"
yeah. Yes.
It's
Not even in our
amazing.
industry either. I found myself in wormholes about all kinds of shit. Like, yeah, I
Oh,
digress.
fun
Anyway,
times though.
I'm like obsessed with 3D printing now because of Clubhouse. Like, I found a room one day. This is so random. This is like real estate brain too. Like, I feel like all of us are so entrepreneurial all the time. I found this room that was on like 3D printing and just investments that are happening around 3D printing. And I cannot stop thinking about it, even still to this day. Like, I wonder how those guys are doing. Like, they were starting that 3D printing company. Like, I want to check in.
I didn't go down that rabbit hole, but that is, yeah, I'm going to avoid that one for the time being.
Yeah,
All
sit it
right.
out. Sit that one out.
To start, I really want to go back, and you had such an interesting youth, right? You lived in Germany for a period of time. You're born here well, I say here, I'm in Canada, you're in the US. Born in the
Yeah.
US, you moved to Germany. How was that like growing up there? And what was life like before you actually moved back? And how old were you when you were in Germany? And then when did you actually move back to the US?
Yeah, so I credit, what has made me a good real estate agent to this exactly, which is, growing up abroad or growing up anywhere outside of the area where I currently am. I think a lot of real estate agents will market themselves, and there's nothing wrong with this, but a lot of real estate agents will market themselves as, born and raised in a certain area, so they know it like the back of their hand, backwards, forward, sideways, which is fair, and I love that. What has made me a good real estate agent is because I grew up abroad and I've moved so many times. So my mom's American, my dad's German. I was born in the States. In the States, I moved like 5 times before I was 8 years old. And then when we were in Germany, I moved a bunch of different times, changed schools a bunch of different times for a number of reasons. I speak German. I grew up, in a German environment. And then for high school, we moved back to the States. So I went to, including college, I went to like 25 different schools, which is kind of crazy. But I know the feeling of being new so intimately. And what that did is once I leaned into it, especially as an adult, like once I realized that that was actually like a superpower, being able to be new and navigate and um, eh, figure out who you are in the pecking order of like a brand new ecosystem, right? Um, there's so much synergy with that in the real estate world. Being like a quick study and being able to, and the reason I'm sharing this like down this kind of rabbit hole is because I think anyone that has moved around a lot, that's one of the questions that I get is like, often is from like newer agents who are newer to an area. Like, how do you build your sphere? How do you, and it's easy to do if you do it strategically and you don't try to be the person that was like born and raised in the area, right? Like if you lean into being the person that has moved a lot or is that has relocated, there's so much value that you can bring to the table there. It definitely, I mean, it shaped me and made me who I am. I'm like the welcome wagon queen of the universe. We have shirts and all kinds of things that say you can sit with us, not you can't sit with us. Um, New kids are my jam.
I I love it, and the nice thing is a lot of your business also comes from people that are moving, and
Yeah,
that
totally,
relatability factor really helps because you've done it so much. So
totally. Yeah.
you moved to the U.S. and now you're back. You're in high school. What did you really want to do with life before you got into real estate? Before you got into McKesson, actually doing sales? What was the lifelong goal? Did you ever want to go into sports seriously because you played soccer at a young age, fairly
Yeah.
competitively, high school, I believe it was, or
Yeah, I
college as
played in high
well.
school. Yeah, I played in college too. And sports have always been like a major part of my life around track and played soccer. And I've always just been really competitive. And I come from a family of athletes too. So for me, like there was no other option than to play sports, even in college. Like I was like eye on the prize, the whole time. And then in college, so I started out at Baylor University in Waco, Texas, and then I transferred. lost eligibility because I transferred, and then transferred again and found out I had lost the eligibility. So long story short, by my junior year of college, I became ineligible to continue playing. And it was like one day to the next. And it absolutely rocked my identity, like rocked my world, because up until that point, like all that I knew was, or all that I like was focused on being was, getting through college, playing soccer. My junior year of college, so I was at the University of Tennessee. It was 2008, and which, as everyone knows, in the American housing landscape, 2008, 2009 was a very challenging time for a lot of people. My dad lost his job. My parents lost their house. They had to declare bankruptcy. It was to have that happen in college mid stride. Like I had to figure out how to support myself, and I started bartending, and I bartended like 5 nights a week. There was a point in time where I had to live in my car for a second. Um, I I've been through my I've been through a lot while also having a oddly middle class upbringing, if that makes sense. And I think that the reason I'm sharing that is because I think that there's so many millennials who went through something like that, but don't have feel awkward because ultimately like my parents figured it out. They lost their house. They were in a really, really bad spot, savings wise and the whole thing, but they figured it out. And up until that point, I had been living this middle class life, and going from that to nothing and having to figure it out, I think is really relatable for a lot of millennials. Like a lot of my friends were in the same boat, but we also, didn't necessarily grow up poor. And so it's an interesting thing for 20-year-old. Like if you graduated high school in 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7 in that band. When did you graduate high school? How old are you?
2005. I
Oh,
think
okay,
we're
yeah, we're
around
the
the
same
same
age.
age.
Yeah, we're the exact same age. That's right.
87?
86.
86. So I'm
Yeah.
January
When's your
87.
birthday?
January.
Oh, you are? I'm
You?
December 86.
Oh, so we're 1 month apart.
That's
We're
funny.
exactly the same.
Yeah.
January
I
19th.
feel like I feel like you and I have done this before. Like I feel like we came to this realization and I feel like we've talked about this before. Like we're the exact same age for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It was I think it was around your birthday, and I was like, um yeah. So if you're our age, these middle millennials, we also graduated college then in an economy that was like if you could buy a job, you were lucky. Like so many of my friends didn't have jobs coming out of college. I luckily, by the grace of God, got a job in medical sales, which was at the time like a godsend, and I was making incredible money out of college. So lucky, so lucky. But I think that it's so interesting to unpack this vulnerability that a lot of millennials have during that time, because a lot of our friends, like off the top of your head, I feel like you probably know other people that experience the same thing that I did, which isn't normal. Like it's not normal to lose your house and to have your friend's parents all of a sudden evicted or whatever
See,
happened. But I think
I want to add, in the
go ahead.
US, it was much different than it was in Canada. Canada did get
Oh
hit,
yeah.
but we got hit like 10, 15%. We didn't get hit 50, 60%. So sure,
Yeah, that's right.
some people took that hit. I've seen people kind of graduate and still not get jobs for years, or go get their MBA and they're still struggling to get jobs. So yes, I've seen that, but we didn't see as much of that financial instability in Canada as the US experienced overall,
Yeah,
which
that's
was
fair. That's fair.
completely drastically life-changing, right? For most people.
Did you know about what was happening? Like how was the news cycle in Canada during that time? Like
Uh,
during the recession?
Fear mongering, heavily fear
Yeah.
mongering. And I even remember being in the US, I think maybe it was 8 years ago, 9 years ago, and everyone kept saying, oh, you guys are in a bubble. You guys are going to crash. This is going to happen. It happened to us. It's going to happen to you. A lot of Americans would chat like that to say, you guys didn't really get hit. You're going to get hit. And guess what? We've just kept kind of riding that wave. And we went
Yeah.
up all the way to what the peak was, I guess, March of last year. And then we've had a little bit of a correction of about 20, 22% in the market. But we went up 80% across a couple of years, which was insane.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
that's
coming
interesting.
down 20, and then the last three, we've gone up 11% in average price. So February, March,
Yeah.
April of this year, it's 5%, 1%, and 5% month over month. So
Oh, that's so interesting.
it's just it's interesting how it kind of bounced back so quickly. But
Yeah,
yeah,
same. Yeah, that's a whole God, that's a whole beast to unpack for sure. That's interesting about the recession. I mean, and it just further proves that our recession in, oh 08, oh 09, whatever that like, um, I guess are we calling it the Great Recession? I heard someone refer to it as that the other day, and I was like, I guess that is what it was
it
in
was
the
probably
States.
the biggest since the early 90s, right? Well,
Yeah,
89 to 91, what happened was
yeah,
probably the last big one. And for us, that
yeah,
was the last real big one. Like when you're talking
yeah.
about, yeah, for Canada, I think the 2008 one exists, but it was much smaller in terms of housing crisis.
Yeah, that's interesting from hearing that come from a Canadian's perspective because in the States, the '08, I mean, but that was like a dark, dark period of American history. And the more that we unpack it now, too, like the amount of people that lost properties and homes and their life savings, it's so substantial. And I think that it's so directly related to the loans that were being issued that
Mhm.
should never have been given to people. So I don't know that I mean there was an major economic factor that was happening, in the economy, but then compounded by what the banks were doing. It just, I mean, wiped everybody out.
Well, anyone
Um,
could get a loan, right? And I think it goes back
yeah,
to that movie for anyone who hasn't seen it, go watch The Big Short because The Big
yeah,
Short is probably the best depiction of what really happened, and it was a bunch of people getting loans without any income verification, getting loans in the names of their dogs, in the names of their family. You can have 3 properties, 4 properties, 5 properties, and then you bunch it all together with a bunch of shit, and
yeah,
that's what you end up getting default rates eventually, and
yeah,
it
totally.
absolutely, yeah, went belly up,
Yeah,
right?
decimated.
Unfortunately.
Totally. Yeah, totally, totally. Um, so yeah, so that shaped me for sure, and the real estate world. I was working in healthcare, worked for McKesson for a long time, and before that, I worked for a company called SunQuest, which was like basically like laboratory software and selling to hospitals. So I learned how to sell, like how to really, really sell and how to build relationships in the corporate world, which is something that I am so grateful to have had. Now, as the owner of my current business, anytime we bring in like a sales trainer or someone, to do an on-site training, I look at the price tags of these things and it's like, holy smokes, like I had that for free in the corporate world. Like that is an underrated reason to be in the corporate world, the training that they provide. I learned so much from, my mentors and bosses, but also just the systems that they have in place. Um,
How to
like
run a
it's funny.
business, right?
Yeah.
McKesson's massive. I don't think people realize,
Yeah.
for those who haven't heard of McKesson, it's one of the largest brands out there. They supply pretty much all medical supplies across North America. I don't know if they're
Yeah.
are they worldwide? I don't
Yeah.
know. I
They
know
are.
North America. I know it because I worked at Target and they were a number
Oh
one
yeah.
supplier of all
Oh
medical
yeah.
products. So you used to
Yeah.
get
Totally.
pallets of McKesson things in all your stores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Yep. Yep. Yeah. So I think that real estate agents, it's funny. I spoke on this, or I did this keynote thing the other day, and I asked the audience how many, it was to a room of realtors, and I asked how many people started their careers in real estate, like coming out of college. And out of the entire room, there was one person that raised their hand. And granted, the audience only had like three people in it, so just kidding. Just kidding. But it was great. Like there was a lot of people. It's crazy how real estate is so unique. Like you just said it, like you worked at Target before getting into real estate. Our industry and our colleagues come from the most incredible motley crew of backgrounds. It's amazing. Like our real estate community is it's amazing.
Yeah, I think if you have that, and I speak of this in a couple other podcasts, if you have those transferable skills, getting
Mhm.
into real estate makes it that much easier. If you've ever led in the past, if you've ever sold, built relationships, and selling is selling, right? The commodity is the only thing that changes. And we're now, and your goal as a realtor should be to be the expert at the commodity that you're working on, or as a shoe salesperson, or as a clothing salesperson, or medical sales. Sales is sales. It's building relationships, building trust. And if you build trust, if they know you, like you, trust you, they're going to do business with you. So how do you do that in that short amount of time? That's the goal, right? Because sometimes when we meet people, we only have 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes to make an impact in their lives and to show them that we are truly the experts at what we do. Here's why you should work with me without saying, here's why you should work with me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think that there are people in this world that are naturally born salespeople, right? Like gift of gab, having, the ability to navigate a salesy type conversation. They like every I feel like if you close your eyes and picture like five people that have like a natural salespeople, we all picture like the same five people, right? But I
I,
think
I
that
picture five of myself, basically. No. I picture you as well.
right.
You're a natural
Yeah.
salesperson. You have it.
No,
And you
totally.
can just
Yeah,
tell
totally.
who has it. Like by
Totally.
chatting with someone
Yes.
for 30 seconds, this person's got it. This person can sell
Totally.
shit on a stick to someone if they had to. They're just
Totally.
naturally
100%.
born salespeople.
Totally. But I think also there's so many resources that exist that help people polish those skills though too. And so for people that do freestyle selling well, like people like you and me, right? There are so many guardrails that I have up constantly and like boundaries that I have in place for myself so that I can sell effectively. And that comes from listening to podcasts and from reading books and from and I'm saying that because I think a lot of times when like newer agents will get a little bit defeated, if they haven't made a transaction or haven't made a sale, and like they'll make it sound like it's so easy for you, right? I'm sure you get that all the time. Like it's so easy for you. You can just talk to anybody. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, it is, but there's so much more learning that went into, and so many losses that went into why I'm good at this. So many losses, like so many failed, open house conversations where I accidentally pissed the person off and I go, why did I do that? And then unpacked it and went, oh, okay, that's where I went wrong. Like unpacking where you go wrong is so important as part of the sales cycle too.
But I feel like a lot of people don't also see the struggle, right? You're discussing all the things you kind of went through in your younger life and before you even got
Yeah.
into real estate. And what people see is, okay, she's married to someone who's a former baseball player. She has all these baseball clients, this, that, but the hustle is real. Guess what? Those people may transact with you once, but they're not coming back to you if you're not giving them exemplary service, if you're not going above and beyond for them. So, sure, there's certain things that fall into place because of where we are in our lives at a specific point in time, but it's not all luck. There might be 10% luck or 5% luck, but it's not luck that helps you sell $100 million a year. It's not luck that
Yeah.
helps you build a successful team. That's hard work. And there's people that,
Yeah,
of
no
course,
doubt.
follow you for what you do and love the service you give them. Why do you keep getting referrals? Why do you keep
Yeah.
getting repeat business? Because that's where a lot of your business is from, right?
Yeah, it is. It's totally word of mouth, reputation. Um, we do a lot of I get a lot of what I call office calls where the person has seen something on social media or seen something about me in the news. And that shit was not built in a day. Like that. Oh my god, it is so mother trucking hard to make your phone ring in real estate. Like where someone actually wants to hire you to sell their house, or it is so hard and it gets harder and harder every day. Like with the newest widget and gadget and iteration of whatever lead platform, like everyone's vying for buyers and sellers' attention, including realtor.com and Zillow and all the other platforms that exist. It is so hard to make your phone ring. So if you can make your phone ring, whatever it is that you're doing to make it ring, double down on it. Like if you get a lead from some source and it whatever it is, do that thing again. For me, it was open houses. Like I've mainlined open houses. My first client came from an open house, and my second client, and my third client, and my fourth client. And then I did a bunch of rentals too. But it's like just keep doubling down on what it is that's working until it stops working.
So were you running your own open houses or for other agents?
No, for other agents. So so when I graduated from college, got the job with medical sales, and then I met my husband. My husband was a professional baseball player, and we had my first son, and then I was pregnant with my second son, and I realized that I just couldn't do the travel for work anymore. So I love marketing and I love creating, right? Like the first thing we talked about was the agency's logo. Like it's such a fun, so good. So I felt like real estate was such a low barrier to entry into a marketing and like creative career. And I was always so inspired by like other like going around town for however many times we moved, how real estate agents would market themselves and like all their different, logos and headshots and the different designs on the bus or business card or whatever, right? So I was always super inspired by that. And I always felt like it was the only business that you could start immediately and like build a website and build a business card. So it was like, all right, well, this is what I'll do then. Like that's literally why I got into real estate. Um, so I started my team almost accidentally day one. I got a call. I was with Keller Williams at the time, and I was in the bullpen area in the Keller Williams office, and the phone rang, and no one was in the office to take the call. I wasn't even on floor time. Like it was just the front desk picked up the phone, and they said to the back, like, "Hey, can anyone take a call with a seller?" And nobody was there, which is so rare. It's like serendipitous how this happened. And so I was like, I'll do it. I'd literally been licensed for like 30 seconds. So the seller invites me over to his house to do a listing presentation. And I go like a freaking idiot, like by myself without asking any questions. I had the address and I had his name. And this guy's name is Bob Johnson, by the way. So highly Googleable. Turns out he's an amazing man. He gave me a huge opportunity when, I was brand new. But when I was sitting across from him at his house, pitching him on selling his house, I was pitching myself in terms of we. Like I kept saying, I think because I was so used to Emma McKesson saying, we will do this and I'll take that back to our leadership, whatever. Like I kept saying we over and over again. So he hired us. There was no us. It was just me. And I went back to the Keller Williams office and there was a girl, her name's Savannah Unruh. She was my first agent. She was 19 years old and she was there in the same bullpen area. And I walked in and I went, would you like to join a team? So at that point, I had done one rental and she had done one sale. So together we had done deals. So she joined my team and we ended up crushing that listing and just getting others off of that. But the buyers that I had been working with up until that point were buyers that I met at other agents' open houses. And I'm telling you, like, I always think this, like if my business, so I have a team now and like 30 people that work here, but I always think like if anything ever happened or if like I had to move, for my husband's job or whatever, like if I had to move to Des Moines, Iowa or wherever, if you just give me any real estate agent's phone number and I can convince them to let me host an open house, I will build my business again. Like open houses are, in my opinion, the easiest way, because what you can do with an open house, like you can meet all the neighbors. You can, first of all, it's an opportunity to sell that house. But anybody that walks in the door is like the world is your oyster with an open house, right? You can walk around a grocery store and invite people randomly to your open house, which is what I used to do. Right? Like I would shop for the supplies for an open house for literally hours. I would wear my name tag and I would shop around the supermarket that was near whatever house it was. And I would make small talk with everybody, like accidentally on purpose, saying, "Oh, I'm shopping for my open house. It's at 123 Main Street. I would love if you came. Have you bought a home recently? Are you in the market? Do you live here?" I could talk about this forever.
That's incredible, though. That is actually incredible, and it would still work today, right? It's not like
totally,
yeah, but
and it's not that inauthentic. Like it's actually very, very authentic. Like it's a very authentic way to build a business, in my opinion. Shopping for, hours and hours for muffins is maybe a little bit cheesy, but hey, you're running into people with a purpose.
And it's sweat equity, right? You don't have to spend a lot of money to do this.
Yeah,
you can
totally.
you can throw some water bottles up, some coffee up if you want. You can throw some snacks in there if you'd like, some cookies. It doesn't hurt to do something small. It doesn't cost a whole lot of money. It can be free, completely free. You put up some signs and you're done. Put up 15, 20 signs and you're good to go.
All you're doing, and by the way, that having 100 million signs out, like I would have literally like one sign out front, and then I would just door knock everywhere around. Like the open house is the excuse to have, all you're doing is creating a conversation collision. So a conversation about real estate, and because the open house is your prop for the real estate, it creates the natural rhythm of a real estate related conversation. And you'll have 30 conversations that are duds, but just need the one.
Yeah, that's it. And you're trying to just
Mhm.
build trust. You're not even trying to sell the house. If you sell the
Totally,
house, that's the bonus. But
totally.
you're really just trying to find someone who might be interested in buying, selling, or investing. And I think
Yeah, totally.
that's something people have to keep in mind is everyone thinks, are you thinking of selling your home? Are you thinking of buying this home? Did you like this home? Do you want to put in an offer? No, just wait. Have you had any thoughts about buying, selling, or investing? Just ask them that question versus trying to sell what you have today, and be honest with people. I find a lot of times you walk into open houses, some of the agents are just trying to sell you that house. That's your opportunity
Yeah.
to find out information about the person walking in, about the client.
Totally. Well, I think I mean, it is super, super important when you're hosting an open house. I feel like we need to say this as like a disclaimer that like you're focused on selling the house. But I think what the open house does, that this is like the magic that most sellers don't think of, is that you're creating an open showing window for other agents to be able to send their buyers and have it be like in a safe space where they're not going to get, poached or, whatever. Weekends are tough for real estate agents. We're like back for the good ones, right? Like we're back to back to back showing homes all over the place. So if there's an open showing window, I'm going to send my buyer there to be able to see the property, even if I can't make it, versus declining the showing. So it's a huge opportunity to sell the property if you're a seller. And if your agent makes some connections along the way, then that's a two for one.
And does your team still host open houses now?
Yeah, we love open houses. We sell about 70% of our listings at open house right now,
That's incredible.
which is but the thing is we target the secret sauce to open houses is making other agents feel completely safe with sending their clients to the open house. So our focus for open houses for our sellers and for our listings is on creating a open showing window for our buyer or anybody's buyers to stop by. Like we're not looking for the looky loo that's like randomly driving down the street. Now the agent hosting the open house who's facilitating it, their goal is to get the random looky loo to come in and to create that, that real estate conversation collision. So it's definitely two goals there. But I also have like my team. The way my team does listings is we have someone on the listing side who represents the seller, and they never represent the buyer at the same time. So usually open houses are hosted by an agent who isn't also representing the seller.
Okay, that's good. So you're not in a multiple representation position.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. That makes good
Yeah.
sense. It's great. Great information for the new guys out there. So what would you say if someone is trying to break into this market, build their business, what would be your two or three things that you would recommend to them that they start with? And what has really helped you? Of course, you mentioned open houses. I know that's going to be one of them. What would be the other one or two things that you'd say they have to do?
So I mean, for me, it's always like my advice with this has been the same for a while, which is join a team. Like if you are brand new, it is so mother trucking hard to compete with
You can swear
people
on
like
my
me.
podcast, by the way. You're welcome to
Yeah, am I
swear.
allowed
You can
to?
drop an F
I have a
bomb. It's motherfucking
I have a
hard. It's
potty mouth.
okay. It's all good. I swear all the time. This is probably the longest I've gone on my own podcast without swearing. So,
I think that's the longest I've gone ever in my life
yeah.
without swearing. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Gloves off. Um, yeah, it is so hard to start out as a new agent right now in the real estate climate that we have, competing against the teams like mine, and I mean there are dozens and dozens and dozens of teams, even just in my immediate area, that a solo agent is really going to have a hard time competing against because we have resources and we have leads and we have like we're competing for everyone's attention. Blah blah blah. My point is I think if you're newer, I think you would be making a very big mistake by not joining a team and committing to that team for at least 2 years, like giving them 2 years to figure out how to do the real estate. And I would be remiss not to point out that the most important part of this is making sure that you're doing right by that team leader when you leave. So when you leave the team, making sure that you are abiding by your agreement, that you are not stealing their leads, stealing their resources. That's the biggest squirreliness and issue that we have as team leaders. I could talk about that all day long. Um, but yeah, teams are I think the one of the best mechanisms of real estate in the 21st century for newer agents.
No, what the flip side for some of the newer agents is, well, I don't want to give away 50% or 60% or 40%. But what they don't realize is you've just expedited your real estate career by 2, 3 years. at times.
Oh,
And that
totally.
1 year,
Yeah,
what you're going to learn with a really good team, you can't do in 2 years on your own. You just can't.
totally. You can't at all. And I mean, we have agents that leave my team and, go out on their own. And when you look at their production from when they were with the team to when, and this is even after they've been through, our training program and everything, you can't even compare the production that you get from leads just being handed to you. There's also an extreme benefit to having a leader in place as the team leader, because as an agent on a team, you get to escalate things to your team leader to a client. So you get the benefit of saying to a client, let me run that by Holly, let me see what she thinks. And then all of a sudden you have an expert that's built in, whether you knew the answer or not. Like, I have an agent on my team that does this all the time. I'm not going to reveal who it is, but she's brilliant. She does this all the time, where she'll say to the client, like, let me see what Holly thinks about that. Like, if it's a negotiation, right? Or if something gets heated. And then she'll call me and she'll say, hey, just so you know, I'm for Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'm asking you if what you think about the inspection. Here's what I think we should do. Do you agree with that? And 99% of the time I'm like, yep, sure do. And then she'll call them back and say, and it's not like, it's funny because it's not even like a cheesiness, like salesy type
Mm-mm.
thing. It's like people just need an authoritative expert to validate what the new person is saying, right? Like, if you're a new agent, like, I do that all the time. Like, if I'm buying a car and I can get the sense that the person is a newer salesperson, I'm going to ask them to go get their manager. It's just a thing. So newbies get the benefit when you're working on a team, they get the extreme benefit of escalating things.
Big time. And then for listing presentations, you can go out there and close them much
Yeah.
easier than someone who's new, who's never been in front of a $10 million homeowner, $20
Yeah,
million,
totally.
or even 4 or 5 million. I'm saying 10. What's the average price point in Jupiter?
So that's a really,
It's a loaded question,
really
right? It's
weird question.
yeah,
Yeah, because we have
because
properties
there's
here that are,
pockets.
well, our market, like, we literally have $100,000 condos and then $100 million oceanfront estates. So the average is so skewed in like um, a very weird way. My average price point of homes it fluctuates between 1.5 and 1.8 for our listings. So that's like kind of the band that we play in, but we'll sell anything. The most
Of
expensive home
course.
I've ever sold is $30 million. The least expensive is $30,000.
So that's a pretty big ballpark. But
Yeah.
anyone who doesn't have the experience walking into even a $2 million home, not
Yeah.
understanding what type of service is being offered, because luxury isn't the price point, it's really the service, right? And that's where
Totally.
it goes back to your team, the values, what you guys stand for. And there's also major brand recognition, as we spoke about the agency, the name, but the Meyer Lucas brand, the lemons, that holds great value for clients when they
It's
see you
priceless.
walk. Exactly, right? And you've been around for a number of years. You've been very successful. You've been in magazines, you've been online. I don't know if you have billboards in Florida. I haven't been to Jupiter specifically, but people have seen your face, right? They know who you are. There's major brand recognition there. So I think, as you said, completely priceless. Talk to me a little bit about that, building that as a brand across now. You you pretty much built a team from day one. When did the Meyer Lucas team come to be, and when did the Lemons kind of come to be, which I love?
Yeah, so I had this idea when I first started. One of my best friends was getting her real estate license in Georgia, another state, and we had this idea of like that we would operate like kind of under the same umbrella. This was like my first attempt at like the team thing. I was exaggerating when I said I'd start my team day one. It was a couple months in. Um, so we operated under this umbrella that was called the Daheim Group, so Daheim is a German word that means like at home. And it was like this professional looking, like sterile brand. And I thought that, with my German heritage and with her being in Atlanta, like we would be like, Palm Beach and Atlanta. And it would be this professional, very, very just sterile brand, right? The logo was like black and white. And it was, and the biggest reason for that is because when we both got our licenses, like we surveyed the landscape of our competition, and we looked at like what all the other luxury agents were doing, and you look at the Sotheby's logo and it's just so like sterile and professional looking, and it carries such a punch. And We saw the agents, in my office who were, buttoned up and like they wore, their suits and like it was just very professional. Anyway, so that's what we tried to be. And when I say we, like we were both like kind of just sharing resources and sharing a website essentially. Um, and so I couldn't hack it. Like I couldn't be the professional real estate agent because when people like would meet me, I would try so hard to be like just everything that you would picture with like professional realtor guy. Like I would try to be. I'd wear my suits and I'd have my business cards and like my pen with my logo and all the stupid things that I thought was going to land with people, and it just didn't because I am this, right? Like I talk in emojis and I am colorful and I drop the F bomb all the time. And so there was an extreme misalignment between my personal brand and what I was actually like the authenticity was just completely out of alignment. So I was hosting an open house and for another agent and hadn't sold anything. I'd done like one rental and I was at my like wits end with this. I was like trying so hard to make something happen. I just could not make it work. And in walks this woman named Jenny Griever. She's one of my top agents now, actually. Long story short, she ended up getting her real estate license way later, but she was one of my very first clients. She walked in and I introduced myself to her, and this is very like serendipitous. Accidentally, I said, my name's Holly Meyer, which is my maiden name. And and I go by Holly Meyer Lucas because there's a fella named Holly Lucas. And so if you Google Holly Lucas real estate, she was a realtor. So I had to add Meyer back into my name. So anyway, I introduced herself as Holly Meyer, which is how I was born. It's who I am. It's like me at my core is Holly Meyer, right? And her response was, "Oh, Holly Meyer Lemon Tree. Nice to meet you. I'm Jenny." And our energy alignment just it like when you're talking to someone, like I feel this way when I talk to you. Like it's like just effortless, like the energy is there, it's a vibe. You and I vibrate at the same frequency, like we're just and I think the beautiful thing about Clubhouse was we were all kind of like that. Like we found like a lot of us were like that, right? Anyway, so she was one of those people. And when she said it, when it came out of her mouth, I was like, fuck, that's my logo. Like that's me. I'm the Meyer Lemon like emoji. And like it just I feel like my entire brand, the second she said that went like, oh, that's what it is. That's me. So I bailed on the sterile, Daheim Group stuff and started just doubling down on the lemon thing. And it's funny. So I'm in my office right now and like we have like there's just it's my entire office is, lemons and color and the rest is kind of history. But I think that the takeaway is be who you are. And that sounds so cheesy and so stupid. But if you are a blue collar type person, be the blue collar type person. If you're a white collar type person, focus on the country club people. Like sell to the people that you know, because you're going to be so out of alignment with the others, like culturally, where are you from?
I'm
Or what's your heritage?
Pakistani. I
Yeah.
was born in Pakistan
Okay.
and I moved here when I was 10.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So this is a really good example. And this feels so obvious because you are Pakistani. If I were to go on a listing appointment with a Pakistani family, I would be so out of my depth, right? You could do that in your sleep, right?
Yeah.
That's a very, very obvious illustration. Like, no duh. It's the same for income thresholds, for energy, for stage of life. Like, I don't do well, for example, my team in general does not do well with older, very hands-on people who like phone calls over text messages, people that need in-person meetings, for example. Like we don't do well with that because all of us think fast, move fast. We like to text. We like to document things in email. We like e-signature. So we don't go after that demographic. Like our marketing isn't geared toward that demographic because that's just not us. And there's going to be a misalignment there. Same thing if I were to pitch your Pakistani parents, there would be the same misalignment. It's just more obvious with the Pakistani example than it is. And I think newer agents look at all opportunities as opportunities, right? And I think it's like, are we going to turn down an opportunity to work with someone who is, an older snowbird? No, but we're not going after them by any means, right?
That's not where you're focused. You're focused on,
Right.
your vibe attracts your tribe, right? And I think
Totally.
that's a Tom Ferry line. Yeah. Your vibe
Yeah.
attracts your tribe, and who you are, you have to be straight. You have to stay true to it. You have to stay true
Mhm.
to your alignment, authenticity. I think everything you said is 100% on board. And I don't go after people that I don't relate well with. If I don't relate well with them, it's okay. I'm
Yeah,
not going to be
totally.
everyone's cup of tea. And it's okay to understand that your business is going to be built on what you want to build it on. And
Yeah.
you just need to go out there, provide value, and it will come back to you. I think it keeps going back to the education for people and understanding how to service clients, how to negotiate, how to be educated in the
Yeah.
market. Know have the answers to the questions they're looking for, or don't make them up. That's the other thing. I find a lot of
Oh
new
my
agents
god.
just lie out of their
Yes.
teeth and they'll start saying random shit. Like, how's the
Yes.
market? How do you answer that question? Well,
Oh
it
my
depends on
god.
what you're looking to do. But it's
Yeah.
not, oh, it's been really tough. It's been tough. It's been slow. I haven't had a transaction in the last few months. That's how a lot of people answer that question. Not the good
Yeah.
agents, of course. Whether it's
Yeah.
busy, slow, there's ways to answer the question. How's the market?
Yeah.
Versus like the fear mongering that happens through the media, through the articles. Oh my God, the crash is imminent. Everything's down 50%. Or no, it's really not. You start reading it and they're taking a subset of data and blowing it up into this larger, I guess, just subject line. And boom, here you have it. Here's your article. But more people are
Oh, it
likely
drives me
to click on
nuts.
that, right? That's the
Yeah,
other
it
thing.
drives me nuts. I think also like what real estate agents are doing right now with that question in particular, like there's the classic like, how's the market? Well, it depends. Are you buying or selling, right? If you take it a step further and like you are actually in like a full conversation with like a buyer or seller, either way, so you're supposed to take that question, go a fork in the road, right? Are you buying, selling, or investing? Wherever you end up, I think right now, and granted, we're recording this in May of 2023.
Mhm.
And I'll even double down on that and say it's mid-May 2023, like not beginning of May, not end of May, because God knows what will happen. I think it's a safe thing to say and a responsible thing to say if you're working with a buyer or a seller, whoever, that you don't know what the economy is going to be doing. Like we don't know how the economy is going to shake out this summer. And I can say that because I've sold over 1,000 houses and I pay attention like a fucking maniac to all the things. I don't know. I don't know. I know interest rates are this right now. I know you're paying $5,000 a month in rent. And I know it makes sense for you to not pay a landlord and for you to pay a seller that money instead and own the property. That's what makes sense to me. And I think like agents get so cute right now with wanting to sound, the bottom line is if you talk to anyone in finance or anyone like what the economy is doing right now is everyone has 45 different opinions and nobody knows. Like
But that's every
that's
year,
my
right?
position.
Every year they come
Right.
out and they say,
Yes.
I think 2 years ago, they're like, the market's going to go down 14%. It went up 20. Like,
Yeah.
so where do you really, nobody knows what's going to happen, but you should know what has happened. I think that's the
Totally.
one
Yes.
thing
Yes.
you can project confidence by saying, here's what happened the last 3 months. Here's what's happened
Yeah.
in the last year. Here's where the interest rates are. Here's what it
Yeah.
means for you.
I think what happens though too is so in our market especially, so I'm in Florida in the Palm Beach area where we have so many people that work in finance or whose dads work in finance or grandfathers or grandmothers or mothers. So many people that are finance adjacent. And they love a conversation about the economy, about the market, about real estate in terms of the grander scheme of what those things are doing right now. So interest rates and commercial real estate and big development and acquisitions. Okay, so they love a conversation about that. So this topic, they love talking to the real estate agents about this topic. At the end of the day, what you're doing is you're buying a roof over your head for your family, or you're selling the roof over your head for your family and doing something else. I think that people make such a mistake of overcomplicating the real estate purchase and overthinking if they're going to be overpaying or like buy the freaking piece of property. Buy it. You're throwing money away at and it's oh my god, it drives me nuts when people like we have so many clients that have been sitting on the sidelines for 4 years now. I mean, just not wanting to, waiting for the market to drop and
Waiting
wait.
for
And
it to
I swear to
crash.
God, yeah.
It's gonna
And
crash. It's gonna come down. Well, it
yes,
did, but it didn't come down as much as it went up.
right. And
And
in the meantime, you've spent literally $250,000 in rent that could like that the amount that it's going to go down or the market's going to correct in that price range might be $50,000. So now you've wasted 200,000. And I swear to God, damn near every one of these types of people is finance adjacent or they're engineers. So they overanalyze things in personal real estate. Like when we're talking about personal residential real estate, not investment properties, not commercial real estate, not development, personal real estate. Buy the fucking house.
Yeah, because you're gonna be there on look, on average, people are in their homes for 7 years. On average.
Yeah.
7.5 years. In 7 years, whether you buy it today or in 6 months, you're gonna be up most likely. In
Yeah.
95% of times where you look at it, with the exception of that 2008 crash, and you might look at that, across any 7 year period in the history of real estate, almost everyone is up in their investment, in their
Totally.
principal residence. So just sitting on the sideline, a couple things. The value of your money is going down year by year. What you can
Yeah.
afford is going down year by year. And if you'd locked in 2 years ago at some of those lower interest rates of 3%, 3.5%, you wouldn't be paying those slightly higher ones today. But as those rates start to go down, prices will likely go up over time again. We don't know when,
Yeah.
though. We don't know if it's going to be this year, next year, when that's going to be. But I can say this, sure, the peak of the market for us was March of 2022, last year. That was the absolute peak of the market. And we're down, I think, about 15% from the absolute peak of the market. But I don't think that's the forever peak that we saw. I can
Yeah.
say that, but do I know when that's going to be reached? Whether it's in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years? No. But if you're buying your house
Yeah.
to live in, you might as well go buy the house and live in it and enjoy it. Whether you're saving
Yeah,
twenty
totally.
thousand or $30,000 in mortgage money, it doesn't make that big of a
Oh
difference.
my God.
Like the
Totally. And the
20, 30,
enjoyment
40.
factor of like, yeah, the enjoyment factor of owning a home and not being beholden to your landlord. And like there's just, I think if you, yeah, oh God. Yeah.
Or there's people
I
that
digress.
think they're smart and they'll sell their homes. They'll be like, I'll wait till the market crashes.
Yes.
I'm like,
Yes.
that's
Oh my
almost
gosh.
worse.
Yeah, totally.
Just sell
We've
your
had
house, go buy
so
something
many
else.
people. Yeah, totally. Yes. God, trying to time the market is a loser's game in your personal real estate. Now, again, if you're an investor, if you are, if you treat your personal real estate as an investment, also more power to you. I think there are better ways to invest your money than relying on your personal residence. Like buying a home
Mhm.
is one of the greatest things you can do for your own retirement. You're just stashing money away, and you're giving something that's very inheritable to your kids.
Yeah. And
But
if you have
I
enough
digress.
equity, you can remortgage it and buy an investment property at that point in time if you wanted to. Because guess
Totally,
what? To
yeah.
save 100 grand, it's going to take you years. And that's anyone. Unless you're in real estate and you get big paydays, or you're in one of those entrepreneurship type roles and you've got these big paydays. Once again, it's a very small percentage of people that get that. Not even the bulk,
Yeah.
right? Because even in
Yeah,
our
totally.
industry, what, 87% of people fail in the first 4 years. So
Yeah, isn't
most
that
people,
crazy?
that's insane. So most people will
Yeah.
never see that kind of money anyways. But how long is it going to take you to save if you can pull it out and it's only going to cost you what? I don't know, $1,000 a month versus trying to save $100,000. That's not a bad deal.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's just not a bad deal at all. And it's probably slightly higher than $1,000 a month, considering what are your interest rates like? We're 6.5.
Yeah, we're around that right now
Yeah. So
today.
it's about 600 and change per 100,000. So it's about 1,200, 600 to pull out $100,000. That's not bad at
Yeah.
all. That's a pretty good
No,
deal. And I think in
no, totally.
understanding that, it goes back to understand the numbers. You don't have to be a numbers person, but just type it into a mortgage calculator, throw in
Yeah.
100K, just know what that is. They want to buy a $500,000 house, just take your calculator, multiply it. Here's how much your mortgage is going to be. But
It's shocking how many people can't do that, by the way.
oh my
Like
God. Yeah.
shocking, that's a whole other
Yeah.
like ball of yarn. But I could not agree more. And I think also like I think one of the reasons why I am maybe a little bit extra passionate about that is that there's so many people that make the argument of like buyers like that, well, you're in real estate, like of course you're gonna say that. And it's like, no, I'm actually not. Like there's nothing that I would hate more than for someone to like nothing. It literally keeps me up at night. Like when the market started doing weird things in March 2022, like when it started kind of going sideways. So for us in Florida, it ended up like we ended up having a crazy good year. And we still, I mean, I think in the States, the market is very defined by how things are regionally because we have so much movement happening in the States right now.
Mhm.
But anyway, it kept me up at night when the war in Ukraine was going down in Q1. And like, I mean, I was thinking like all these people that have bought homes, have made like the worst decision ever. It pains me to no end. So yeah, that's the benefit of being a real estate agent is you get lots of all kinds of different walks of life coming at you with all kinds of different chatter, right?
Yep. Are you big on
I
investing
love it.
yourself?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. A
And
lot like, so I do so let me qualify that. I have a handful of investment properties. I just bought a commercial building actually.
which was the one that you
I
guys were throwing baseballs at? I
Yeah,
loved
yeah,
it. That was fun. I watched the
yeah.
entire thing.
Oh, thank you. That's awesome. That's funny. You and my mom probably watched the whole thing. It's so funny with social media stuff. Like I have, I have so steered away from trying to beat the algorithm and trying to post things that I think are gonna, whatever. Like that is like me from 5 years ago. Now, all I do is post content that I want to come back and revisit, and B, that is like on my heart, on like if I'm posting something about real estate or about business, like if it's on my heart, I'm going to share it. And I do not think twice about it. Like I'll put my kids on there because I want to remember that memory. That's a good example of like a core memory that I want them to remember. And it is what it is. Um, anyway, yeah. So I just bought the commercial building, and I don't like having all of my eggs in the real estate basket either, though. So I don't. I invest what I am. Oh, this sounds shitty, but what I'm okay with losing if the real estate market does go in a weird direction. And I'm always prepared for it too. Like for my company, I don't have contracts, for example, that are like with our vendors. Like I do not have any contracts that are over 90 days. Our lease, like that I'm currently in, we're at the end of it right now, but it was a several year commitment. And it was the first time I had signed anything in my business that I couldn't bail on if I needed to. And I think that's probably the like millennial recession in me. But anything like it's very rare that I'll commit to anything over a year, like with any like CRM or any kind of contract.
Interesting. Interesting mindset though, right? And what
Well, I think
so
it's one of the things I think that has made my business. I think it's one of the things that made it successful early on too, because we were able to be very nimble with the marketing stuff that we were doing. So because I would only invest in things that were kind of short term, I could double down on them. And maybe I wasn't getting the $12 discount for doing the yearly subscription to whatever, but I also was able to bail on a CRM that I hated and a docu sign tool that I hated and move it into something else. And I built my website from the ground up one time and then did it again because I didn't like that platform. So I've been able to move and be nimble early on. Now it would be like moving freaking a mammoth if I had to do those things again. But I think when you're starting out, my point here is I think when you're starting out, staying as nimble as possible and not agreeing to the year-long commitment and the $10,000, upfront, whatever. It just pay the extra and be month to month on platforms and things. Does that make sense?
I would agree. Even when I started with my CRM, I'm on Follow Up Boss, and I
Mhm.
started month to month originally till I got to a point where I'm like, this is the one. I
Yeah,
didn't want to commit for a full year, especially if I didn't enjoy it and I didn't think it was the
yeah,
right CRM for me. What do you use anyways, if you don't mind me asking?
yeah. So we use Copper for our CRM, which have you heard of that before?
No, I've never heard of Copper.
It's funny in the real estate space. There's so much opportunity for them in the real estate space. The reason why I like it is because it integrates very very well with the Gmail. So it sits like in Gmail. There's an integration that sits like on the side of the screen, and a lot of other CRMs do that too. I just happen to like the way that Copper allows you to separate people too. So because I work with a lot of celebrities, for example, I can add to a person like the way that it lets me see, for example, like one of my sports agents, I can see all of his clients. And then I can also see like the financial advisors that he works with. And I can see, like, I can drill down by his clients, like what teams they're with, or like I can get very in the minutia of how people are connected to each other. The CRM was built similar to Salesforce, where you can build like an organizational web around like who's in procurement and who's the person's director and their boss, except I do it with people in that way. Does that make sense?
That's fascinating. That actually sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's very, very useful if you work in a market that has that has a lot of like referral things swirling around it. Like you can connect people in a way that's like, okay, this is this person's cousin and they sent us this person, and so we're sending them this closing gift because they sent us, like, you can map it out like that. It's really cool, actually.
Fantastic. I'm going to look into that. I think that'll be good.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Copper.
Amazing, amazing. So we were chatting a little bit about this gap in real estate. Talk to me a little bit about the gap between the schooling aspect and then now getting into the actual real estate market and working in there. And then we'll kind of delve that into what it is that you're doing to close that gap.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So, I am very, very passionate over the fact that real estate school, or whatever course you take to get your real estate license, prepares you for the exam. And they are all of those online platforms. It's such a recurring running joke among real estate agents. Like, what did you learn in the course? Nothing, right? I learned how to not get sued. Like, all the important things that the state cares about or that the country cares about. Um, how long does it take you to get your license in Canada?
About 12 to 18 months. It's a little bit longer now than it was when I got it. I did mine in about 4 beginning to end. But even when I got mine, I think the average was like 8 to 12. Now it's a little bit longer. It's a college course. There's about, I believe, 5 courses you have to pass. And then there's also something in person or hands on training, something like that. I don't know the
Did
details
you do
of.
yours in college? No.
It was Oria, but it was really at home. I'd just read a book and then I'd go write the exam. First exam was like,
Oh,
okay, read the book. Next day I wrote the exam. Second one was about the same. Third one was a little bit
yeah.
harder, but we had 5 as well. But to me, I
Got it.
thought they were easy. The only one that I found a little bit difficult was the third one, which is the actual real estate transaction, which was all the
Mhm.
clauses. And I think if you haven't done contracts in the past and clauses, they kind of confuse you at times. Now I'd be a pro at doing that. I
Yeah.
can write up an offer, all the clauses come up with them from scratch. But yeah, what you don't know, you don't know, right? At that time.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, and in the States, like, the real estate course and the content is like, we don't even get into the contract because the version, like, it's very weird. Our course here in Florida, and this is true for Florida, but other states too, like, they don't teach even the contract at all, which is so interesting. They teach the statutes, like the state statutes around, like, what it means to be a real, like, as part of like you representing a buyer or seller, and like laws,
What the
like the
agency
laws around that.
agreement is between a
Yeah.
client versus a customer. Yeah.
Yeah, like, they teach the legal stuff around what your responsibilities are legally and what a buyers and sellers are, but around the contract, they don't teach that, and I think there's so much strategy involved in, like, just God, on the contract alone, like, there's so much strategy that goes into when you're negotiating, and what things in the contract protect a buyer and seller. I mean, I could talk about this all day long, which is exactly what I'm doing. So, um, I'm super passionate about the gap that exists between the course that exists and how to actually do real estate and do it well. And I think, I mean, we talked about this at the beginning, that if you're a brand new agent, like, you have to join a team, in my opinion, to be able to learn those things. But if you don't want to join a team, or if there isn't a team in your area that provides that type of hands-on training, the real estate course or school that I'm building out is going to fulfill that gap, to help you as a newer agent understand how to do all of those things. Like the open house strategy is like the most basic example. Like, you can Google open house, how to do an open house, and there's probably hundreds of pieces of content, probably ChatGPT driven, right? Around, like, how to do an open house effectively. So taking it one layer deeper, and like understanding the strategy involved with the seller and each buyer, and how to follow up, and all of the things that are, like, very nitty gritty beyond the sign in sheet and the flags and the signs and the cookies. Like, the strategy behind it to be able to build your career. So it's called real estating. I'm separating out on social media. I'm also separating out, like, my real estate content away from the rest of my content, to really focus on helping newer agents. So that is that.
That's exciting. So when's this coming out? What's the timeline for this for you?
Yeah, so I just bought this building, with part of the reason being so that I can host these in person. You can attend a seminar in person on various topics. We're hoping to roll it out by the end of the summer. So again, it's
Great.
May 2023 right now. So
And is it a
yeah, end of summer.
modulated thing, or do they sign up and they get access to X amount of courses, or that's still in the works at this point in time?
It's still in the works, but I think it's going to be more of a freestyle menu. So because it's not lost on me that regionally things are just different too. So like I think open houses are probably universally like all across the board in real estate, right? But maybe like in New York City, like I don't know that I could train to how to do a open house in New York City because of the buildings and the way that, so as I build it out, I think my goal for this is to be able to have newer agents look at like a menu of trainings and go,
Yeah.
I want to learn about this thing specifically, and have it be in an agnostic way. So not the propaganda that your brokerage feeds you or that, your team even feeds you, right? We
I think
all
this
like
is
have
such a
all of that.
big gap in real estate. It's so funny because I was chatting about this exact thing that you're mentioning, and Peter and I were just having a chat a couple weeks ago, and I said to him, "I'm like, you know what's missing is actual training for agents, like on piece by piece topics. There's a lot of information out there, but people don't know where to find it, and there's also 1,000 videos. Not everything is relative to what it is that they're doing. It would
Yeah.
include things like door knocking, things like open houses, strategies." And then having that menu to pick from. I think that's fascinating. Love what you're doing.
Thank
Love it.
you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I
Thank
really
you.
see eye to eye. If you ever want to collaborate, do anything together,
I was
would
literally
love
just
to.
gonna say that I will be hitting you up hard to
Yeah,
come
yeah.
and do a cameo.
Yeah, anything I could help with, I'd love to. Honestly, I think it's great that we've got that relationship to be able to help each other. And if there's any
Totally.
value that I can add to the agents that you're training and vice versa, we'll work on something. We'll work on something with real estating and art of greatness because whatever I do will be under that brand. So that's
Yeah.
my brand for the podcast. It's my brand for the trainings as I roll those out down the road. That's something. It's a wish list. There I haven't fully aligned to exactly how I'm doing that, but it's kind of right around the same concept that you're mentioning. But I love
Yeah,
it,
I
guys.
love that.
Real estating, look it up if you're a new agent there and you want to join the Meyer Lucas team. Join that, or just join the school and learn lots. Because to have an expert in your corner is so important in this business. And once again, it'll expedite their training process and their time to be successful in this business, right?
Yeah, no doubt. It's so valuable. It's so valuable. Thank you for that plug. I appreciate it.
No, no,
You are the
I
man.
I appreciate your time. So before we wrap up, I want to ask two questions, and I want to talk about something. The first is, if life gives you lemons, blank, what do you do?
Sell them.
You
Sell
sell
them.
them. Okay, you
Make
sell them.
lemonade and sell
Make
them.
lemonade and sell them. All right, beautiful. And second is, and these are my two randos before I go into something else. Second is, you played soccer at a fairly high level, and your husband, of course, played baseball. He's now a coach, and your kids play baseball. It seemed like it, at least.
Yeah.
And you're a baseball family. So if you had to, which sport do you enjoy more, and for what? And you can be honest if you like soccer better than baseball. I certainly do. I'll admit it. I'm not a big baseball guy. Mine is basketball is number one and soccer is number two. And I don't know if there's a third sport for me.
That's so funny. I have never been asked that question before. You know what? Let me answer this with like a
No, no
dodgeball answer.
political.
But yeah, because I actually it's like I think um so my favorite sport is track and field. Like I could watch like any kind of track and field event anytime they're on TV, no matter what the level is. Like I love watching any kind of race. And the reason why I love it is because it's so crystal clear, like at the beginning, like who is winning or where the like and when the winner ends up pulling away, like my favorite thing in the world is watching a winner pull away from the pack and win the race. And like it's so exhilarating and it's so fun to watch because it's so clear who like it's such a bite-sized competition, unless you're watching something that's lasting, like 20 minutes, but like a sprint, it's like there's going to be a winner in 10 seconds, like ready, go. That's it. Like it's such a fun, I could watch track all day long. I live for it. Love it.
Okay, but what about soccer or baseball? You have to pick one. And why? I'm not letting you dodge the question. I'm going
Okay,
back
so
to it.
I will say that's okay. So in my heart of hearts, I would be remiss not to say that. I mean, it's soccer. Like it's baseball's boring, man. It's and also I think growing up internationally too, like my friends in Germany have no idea what like no concept of how big of a deal baseball actually is. Like
It's only big in the US though, like in North
totally.
America. That's it.
Totally, which is like they are 100% right with that. Like it doesn't matter in Germany at all. And anywhere internationally. It doesn't
It's
like
like
in
American football. It doesn't matter anywhere except for the US.
totally. And so I think the thing that I love about soccer is like the World Cup being every 4 years, like it just unites everybody. We does this feels like a dumb question. I should know this. Does Pakistan have were they in do they have a soccer presence?
Never, never. We're
No?
we're a cricket and field hockey presence type
Yeah,
of place. We're not really, which neither of
got it.
which I personally follow or I'm a big fan of, to be completely honest.
Got it. Dude, the Canadian, oh my God, the Canadians had a run this past World Cup. What's that guy's name? Alfonso.
Alfonso Davies from Bayern, the left back, is
Yeah.
incredible,
Dude, let's
incredible.
go. So good. I'm a Bayern girl too. Like I grew up in Munich, and that goal that he scored, it was oh my God, so fast. I can picture it clear as day. I forget who they were playing, but I can picture how he scored it. It was like who the hell is this person? Like fuego.
He's good and he's young. He's super young, and he got his
Yeah,
start in FC Bayern, and he really made a name for himself in Champions League as well. He was just
yeah.
incredible, absolutely
His
incredible.
story is cool too. I remember Googling him after I was like, "Who the fuck is this?" Like, I should have known who he is, but I didn't. But his story is really cool too, like how he like came to Canada and his parents, like the whole have you read about him?
No, I haven't.
It's worth Googling for sure. I don't want to butcher it, but it's worth reading about.
I'm gonna take a look at that. I think there were 7 guys on the Canadian soccer team from Brampton, which is where I live.
Oh, no
Yeah.
kidding.
Yeah, yeah. There's
Oh,
a
that's
lot
cool.
of people from this area, especially that make it onto the team. At a
Oh,
fairly
that's cool.
decent level. It's nothing like Europe, mind you. We wouldn't even make it.
Yeah.
Like our top guys won't make it to even like the third division in Germany. In all honesty, that's just the reality, right? It's a different ball
Yeah.
game there
That's funny.
altogether.
I mean, the US too. It's like a joke.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But the U.S. has gotten better year over year. I think eventually. I don't know if they'll ever be able to compete. Um,
Oh,
with
did I lose you?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry. I
Okay.
lost you for a
Yeah,
second.
I don't know if the US will ever be able to compete with Europe in soccer.
No,
It's just not they don't have the schools,
no.
the presence, that like fanaticness that the Europeans have. They'd kill each other.
Totally. It's
Yeah.
because all of our athletes play basketball, football, and baseball. Like
Yeah.
it's, yeah, it is what it is.
And also the
Here we
amount of
are.
money that's in basketball, football, and baseball
Yeah.
is insane in comparison to the amount of money that's in soccer, especially in the
Oh,
US,
totally.
right? In the MLS, it's not really as big, and you're not going to make the millions and millions of dollars right away.
Totally.
It's
It's
just
like
not
it's not
happening.
even. Yeah, totally. Totally.
Okay, cool. My
Yeah.
last thing is Happy Mother's Day. It was Mother's Day a couple days ago on Sunday. I want to ask you, how's life like as a mom of 3, of 4, because you have your husband, because we're little kids at times. So I say to my
It's
wife,
true.
she's got 3 kids. So
You are not wrong.
how has that been managing life as a mother of 3 kids, 3 young kids, lots of testosterone in the home, managing a multi-million dollar successful business, clients needs expectations, your kids needs expectations across the last few years, because your family has grown, right? From 1 kid to 2 to 3. And of course 4, including your husband, as I say. So yeah, I
Yeah.
just want to touch upon that.
Yeah, it's oh my God, it's something that I'm very transparent about, and I give like a very raw, like I'm going to give you a very raw and real answer with this, because it's very, very, very hard. My husband works for right now. He works for the San Francisco Giants, so he's gone from February through October, travels nonstop with, and it's always been like that. Like our marriage has always been him traveling during the season. So during the baseball season, I'm what I call a solo mom. I'm by myself with the kids. And I have on one hand, I have a lot of help, and I've learned to leverage help. I have a full time nanny. I used to have au pairs. I outsource my laundry and the cooking and the cleaning and their rides places. I always end up like once we wrap here, I'm headed to my son's flag football game, and I will be there for the game. But I didn't have to do the drive there ahead of time for them to warm up. You know how there's always like ahead of practice, there's always like that hour of dead time, right? Like I won't sit there during the dead time. And then I'll drive them home. I have so much help that I pay for and that I strategically utilize. If I speak at an event, for example, I have a marketing director and a chief of staff who will have everything basically set up and ready for me to walk in, do my thing, and essentially leave. Like they'll network on my behalf. They will get everyone's contact information. They'll send the thank you letters. Like, and I just have to operate like that because there are only 24 hours in the day, and I've learned to prioritize the free time that I do have with my kids. You'll notice like my nails right now are not done. It's like not something that's on the agenda and hasn't been for the last couple of weeks because I've been busy doing other things. And so I definitely make, personal sacrifices all the time in the name of spending time with my kids when I can. But I think it's really important for leaders like me, especially female leaders, to be very outspoken and very real about what it's like to run a business with little kids. Because I think so many of us, I made the mistake of doing this, like, especially when I first started, like, I didn't want it to appear like I was too busy or, I didn't want to be too honest about my schedule because I didn't want to not get hired or like have it used against me. Right. And I think that that's on one hand, it's healthy for your business. Like you never want your buyers and sellers to feel like they're going to be, take a back seat because again, their family's priority is their home, But I think the more that Hey,
Welcome back. Long time.
Well, hello. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. That's okay. It happens, right? You never know. I was wondering because I called you. It went straight to voicemail the first time, and I'm like, okay, her phone probably died. I didn't realize you were on your phone. I thought you were on a computer.
I started it from a computer, and I jumped over as I was moving. All right, it's funny. It died on me when I was talking about like being a mom. That shit gets heated, man.
Yeah, that's the real job. And kudos to all the moms out there. Like,
Totally.
I think that's a full-time job on its own. Raising kids
Totally.
And raising 3 kids. It's
totally.
not easy. I've got 2 and that's a handful, honestly.
Yeah. How old are yours now?
4 and 1. They're little.
Oh, I love
really
that.
small. Yeah.
I think you only had a, last time we talked to you,
I had my daughter,
only
only had my daughter at that time. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's the best, honestly. The best.
That's so cool.
Like you see your kids and you're like, you forget about all the shit that's going on. Anything that is difficult in life kind of goes away. And you're like, I just want to focus on my kids.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay.
Totally.
Amazing. We'll any questions you have for me before we before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I have 100 questions for you. What I want to do is, this is annoying. I can't get this frame rate anymore. I want to host you on my podcast, and it's funny. Like as we've been talking, I have been making so many mental notes of things that I want to explore with you. Your story is so interesting. One of the things that I want to and maybe you'll edit this out, maybe not, but I love so much how prepared you were for this conversation. Like the fact, like your memory can't be that good. Like the research that you did ahead of this, and you can edit this out if you want, but like I'm so impressed. I speak on so many of these things, and half the time I would venture a guess that the host doesn't really fully know who I am, and they need, the content or whatever. And which is fine. Like I get the content game, but it matters so much when you're taking time out of your day to, help someone out and contribute to their content. Like the fact that you knew what you did off the top of your head without having to read it, like 10 for 10. That was and that I think is also that big money energy that makes great real estate agents. Like the ability to give a shit about how old the roof is and how old the AC is and like all the things that you need to remember about a home and about a seller and a buyer's life, like 10 for 10.
I appreciate it. I actually do research on everyone I bring on. I want to make sure, because the thing is, last thing I want, and I mentioned this to you before we started, I don't want to be asking the same questions other people ask, and I want to know about your story. I'm genuinely curious because I think I'm sharing things that are different than what most people are sharing. Look, every other person nowadays has a podcast, right? Like everyone's got a podcast, and you show up on there. If they're not prepared, they don't know what they're talking about, they haven't done any research on you. My thing is, I have an idea of what you've done. Look, I haven't memorized everything, but I have a really, really good memory, really good short term memory, and I can remember all the things that I read. And I've read all the articles, interviews that you've done, and there's so many, right? I couldn't have watched all the videos because I think you have thousands of
No, it's
hours
just
of
incredible. Like you just
video.
nailed you nailed like the essence of who I am. And I think that as someone I think the takeaway for this, and I'm going to share this with my agents tomorrow. I'm so excited to train on this specifically. That putting in the extra effort, the give a shit muscle, like really, really caring about making the person on the other end not only feel special, but also you're going to get the best information out of them. If you're working with a buyer, for example, and like helping them find the perfect home takes a conversation where you know what it is that you're talking about, right? And so paying attention to those first couple interactions, like this is different because you can do like you did your research, on it's mind blowing like how much you just knew. It's not only is it flattering, but it made me like dig deeper into. You hit it on the head. Like I do these things all the time, but you and I just had a conversation about things that I've never talked about on any other podcast before, right? And not that like my personal life is like insanely valuable or whatever, but you better believe that I like your name and who you are as a person. Like I feel like you and I just developed a deeper level of connection just for how you prepared for this.
I'm flattered, honestly. I feel like I'm blushing. Like it's nice to hear. I genuinely appreciate it. And I want my guests to feel special, right? I want to give them that time of day to be able to say, "Hey, this is your platform," and I want to share the things that other people don't share. Because I could have sat here asked you, "Tell me a story about the best celebrity that you sold a home to." I didn't ask those questions, and I'm not going to cut any of this. So my actual interviews are uncut, beginning to end. That's it. Of
Oh,
course,
really?
yeah, they're
Oh
uncut.
shit.
So everything is basically what we see, what we chat about. They get the real us, right? And that's how people get to know who we are,
Yeah,
is
it's true.
through real conversation instead of me cutting out the ums, the ahs, the places where we say fuck or whatever else that we talk about. It's fun, right? I think that's where people develop a deeper sense of relationship with one another. And that's where they'll get to know you to say, hey, this is a person I really want to be around. I really want to work with. I really want to learn from. And that's the goal, right? To give people that platform to share different things than they share everywhere else. And I say this once again, your vibe attracts your tribe. This is who I am. Some people like having the notes, and there's nothing wrong with it. If you can't
No, there
remember
isn't.
it, I don't
There
think.
isn't.
And one of the top podcasters in the world, Lex Friedman. I'm
Mhm.
sure you've heard of him. Of
Yeah.
course, Joe Rogan's huge. Lex Friedman has a book and writes down, and he's quite monotone and boring as I find him, but
Yeah.
he's super smart and knows what he's doing. And I don't
Yeah.
mean he's boring, he's not good. He's really smart to listen to, but he's boring in the way he delivers information at times. That's just not my style of delivering information, but kudos to him because he has millions of subscribers
Yeah.
and he's
Yeah,
amazing
totally.
at what he does. And it's
Who's
not,
your okay, so as a podcast host here, who is your like Michael Jordan guest? Like who would be the best guest for you to interview?
ooh, Michael Jordan guest. Someone who is a podcaster or someone who's not a podcaster?
Anyone that is aligned with your art of greatness.
Look,
Like,
I think there's so many people. I can't pinpoint one. I think in terms of podcasters, my favorite podcaster is Joe Rogan. I think
yeah,
he's super intellectual. He doesn't give a shit what anyone thinks. He is unapologetically himself. And I think
yeah,
that's
totally.
really important. That's the way I feel. I'm unapologetically myself. I will share my views. Whether or not people agree with them, it is what it is. It's okay. It's okay to disagree and have good banter. I find Joe Rogan's one of the best out there, and he's very prepared for his interviews, knows about his guests, knows about the books they've written, all the research he's done beforehand. He doesn't read off paper. He doesn't do any of that. And I like being off the cuff. I know where I want to take the conversation. And sometimes it'll flow in certain ways where I knew where I wanted to go, but in the middle, we'll talk about Clubhouse. We'll talk about the lemons thing. Like that just kind of came up. I'm like, let me just ask this fun little question. And
Funny. Yeah.
it's okay to be off the cuff, have some fun with it instead of just being all Q&A, because ours was probably more conversational, back and forth dialogue versus here's the question, give me an answer, here's the
Yeah,
question.
totally.
I find
Yeah, for sure.
I find those are too dry. But I have a bunch of people on my list. I've messaged Glenda. She said yes, but then she's super busy, difficult to get on.
Mhm.
I messaged Giselle. I've got Justin Conoco coming on.
I
So
love him.
a lot of these Clubhouse people, but a lot of agents that have definitely sold a ton. I also want to go out of the real estate side, and I want to go a little bit more into retail as well. Touch upon the climate of retail. I've got a few people that are on the fence right now, but some of those people are either with big brands and they can't get brand clearance to come on board. That's the only
Oh,
thing. So they're like marketing heads of multi-million dollar companies that are
oh yeah.
worldwide. So it makes it very difficult for them to pop on a podcast
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
talk about their brand or talk about
Yeah.
anything because they need to get clearance from Italy or from France or from somewhere else. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But the art of
Really.
greatness, I wanted to encompass, I wanted to really inspire people and share stories that you can achieve anything, no matter where you come from in life, whether you're in real estate or not, doesn't matter. And although almost everyone I have had has I guess, a touch point with real estate and have that close knit connection with it, but I don't mind having people outside of the world of real estate either. Just
Yeah,
want to have good
that's interesting.
conversations and and I'm very picky with my guests. So I have a very short list of guests and people who are truly great at what they do. I don't want just, and I've been asked that, hey, I want to come on your podcast. I just say no.
Really?
I just say, I'm sorry, not yet, maybe next year. But that's the thing, right?
Get greater.
Yeah, and it's okay. And it's no offense to them, but not everyone's going to make it on the platform. And I get to decide, right?
Sure.
It's my
Yeah,
baby. I get to decide the way I want to roll. And I think there's certain people that have a lot of value to add.
that's so awesome that that you have those boundaries in place for sure. Like I think that's so inspiring. And
Yeah.
I agree with that too. I think that also like because you are the host of this and the creator of this, like your vibe attracts your tribe, right? So if people are not your vibe, they're not going to land with your listeners because your listeners tune in to like the Joe Rogan's such a good example because he doesn't land with everybody. He lands with a lot of fucking people, but not with everybody, you know?
Hmm.
I think being choosy with your guests is really, really smart. Like even down to like the cadence of like I feel like Justin and I have the same cadence. Like we speak in this, you know, like someone listening to this episode is going to roll right into an episode with Justin fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's going to be the same. That's really smart. Really, really smart.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, I don't mind. I don't even care about the views. I'm not doing this because I know over time it will happen. It's
Yeah.
just a matter of consistency, right? This is
Yeah.
only my seventh episode, I want to say. I've got the
Mhm.
eighth one on the 30th. My next guest is John Sai, president
Oh
of
yeah.
EXP Canada. And
Oh, I love
I
that.
love John.
Dude,
I
that's
think he's
awesome.
got so much value to add, but they're very specific people. And that's the route that I'm going. And it's okay if it takes me a little bit longer to get a guest. I'm not just going to have a filler for the sake of having a filler.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the way to go.
yeah.
That's totally because you'll lose like you will lose such a portion of your loyal like listeners by putting out it's funny like whenever I'm listening to one of my podcasts that I enjoy and the guest is a dud, it makes me second guess going back to that podcast again. That's smart. Really, really smart.
Yeah. So
I
it's
also I
really,
think it's I don't think it's very healthy for these podcasts to like and you know time will tell how this ends up being you know algorithm wise, but I don't think it's healthy for the podcasts that are pumping out right now. Like there's so many of them that have like an episode like 2 or 3 episodes a day of like micro content, you know? I don't I gravitate away from podcasts like that. Do you listen to podcasts like that? Like that have
no.
like many, many, many episodes?
I really only listen to Jerry and only specific people that are on there. And then I'll listen to audiobooks more than podcasts at times.
Yeah.
Unless a podcast is really interesting. Depends on who it is, right? If I really like someone and someone's way of chatting, I'm not a big fan of specific people. There's people out there that are great public speakers, but they don't jive well with me. Like a Grant Cardone doesn't jive well with me.
Yeah.
I think he's
Yeah,
a
same.
smart guy. He's made a killing on what he does, but I just find it's a lot said without saying anything. If you
Yeah, I
get
agree with that.
like, it's just a lot of shit and there's no real substance to it that I can truly utilize. To an extent, found it was good at times. There's bits
Yeah.
and pieces. And you have to figure out what works for you, right? Not everyone's
Yeah.
going to jive well with everyone else, and it's okay.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
I
I
like
agree.
Gary Vee, but to an extent, I actually think Gary Vee's really cool with what he does. Lots of F bombs, but
Yeah.
you have to pick and choose. But I can't listen to Gary Vee for 4 hours.
Yeah.
I can listen to him for
Yeah.
20 minutes. That's kind of
Yeah.
my Gary Vee limit.
Totally. Tap out.
But
Yeah.
and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And those guys
Totally.
create great content. They're some of the best content creators in the world.
No, totally. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Yep, for sure.
Anyone you think I should interview next that
I
you
I was
think would
just
be good?
thinking. Yeah, I was just thinking about, God, if you can get Renee Funk, I love her. Do you know her?
I need to look it up, but I recognize the
She
name. Was she on Clubhouse? Renee Funk.
she was. Yep, she's a
Because
bossy boss.
I definitely I'm gonna look it up afterwards. I'm not gonna pull
Yeah,
out my
she's a
phone and
bossy
look up that.
boss, real boss. I
Renee
love
Funk.
her.
Okay.
And then I just spoke at an event with someone who, her name on Instagram is she's the principal of the Savvy group. Her name's Stacey Stombaugh, and I haven't heard a lot of content like podcast wise of hers. I think you would jive with her. She is cool as shit. Her name's Stacey Stombaugh. I'll text it to you,
Text me
but she would
both.
be a good guest for you. Yeah.
Renee Funk, I definitely recognize. Stacey Stamon, I don't.
Yeah,
The
I don't
first
think
name
she
for
was
sure.
on. I don't
Yeah.
think she was on Clubhouse, so she could be a fresh voice for you for sure. She gave us this. Her bit at this event was just around like mega open houses and leveraging influencers, like local influencers. And she runs a team in Denver, Colorado. She is really, really cool.
Okay. Very neat. All right.
Yep. Shout out to Stacy, my girl.
Shout out to both of those, Renee and Stacy, right?
Yep.
I
Yep.
love it. All right. Thank you so much, Holly. I really appreciate it. You kind of shining the light on your life, your journey, sharing your greatness with us, all the exciting things that you're doing. So, guys, if you want to follow Holly down below, the Meyer Lucas team is there. You want to join her right there. Real estating. I don't know if do you have an Instagram page for real estating yet?
I do. Yep.
Perfect.
Yep, I
So
do.
we're going to drop the link below for that as well. Make sure you follow Real Estating, the Meyer Lucas team, and all her details will be there. And she is one badass woman, one badass mother. Shout out to all the moms out there. And thank you so much. You're such an inspiration to so many people, not just in the world of real estate, but in the world of motherhood as well. So we genuinely appreciate you sharing your greatness with us today.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for saying that and for inviting me on here. It's a total honor.
And-
Love talking to you.
And lots of love back to you. We'll be in
Thank you.
touch. It
All
won't
right,
be 2
sounds
years
good.
next time that we chat.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
no doubt. God. Bye.
Bye. Have a good one.
You too.